Okay, so we'll start by paying our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, for who is founder Acharya of ISKCON, and we'll take blessings from our Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, and His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. We are on our journey onto the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is titled as Contents of the Gita Summarized. There are a total of 72 verses, and today we'll try to cover verse 38 to 46, okay, of the section which is Nishkam Karma Yoga, or is also known as Buddhi Yoga, like detached work without any reactions. Okay, and this section, the Nishkam Karma Yoga, basically is going. Krishna is going to reply, the third reason of Arjuna, that he said that he will incur sin, if he fights. So Krishna is going to reply that. Krishna briefly mentioned that it's by not fighting that you will incur sin in 2.33, right? And then he will elaborate here that if you work with detachment, right, with the knowledge of what you gain, that you are not this body and you are soul, right? Then Krishna spoke about karma, khanda, right? But here in this section, he's uh, going to highlight that how using the knowledge, right, how we have to connect the two, connect the gyan with the karma, right, in detachment, right? So this is going to come here, right? So Arjuna wanted to avoid war. Krishna told that it was by avoiding duty that one will incur sin, right? And then to motivate Arjuna to fight, Krishna first explained gyan, or knowledge, and then in subsequent from 3:1 to 3:7, he spoke about karma kanda, to work, right? Here, Krishna is asking Arjuna to work with knowledge and detachment as an offering to the Lord, which is Nishkam Karma Yoga, or in short, it is known as Karma Yoga, right? So in this section, Krishna will explain how one can avoid all reactions by performing one duty with detachment from the result. So we did this shloka last time, right? Sukha dukhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yujaswa nevam papam avapyasi. Uh, Thou shalt fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. And by so doing, you shall never incur sin, right? So again, in the previous chapter, Arjuna said that, I'll incur sin if I fight, right? But here, Krishna is saying, no, you will not incur sin, right? He's explaining here that if you fight with that mindset, so what is changing is, you know, uh, in the previous section from 3:1 to 3:7, Krishna said that fight, right? Here also Krishna is saying fight. The action of fighting remains the same, but what is changing is the motivation. In the previous section, if you see specifically in 2.37, Krishna said, you fight, it is a win-win situation. If you win, you'll rule and enjoy the earthly kingdom. If you lose, you will go to heaven. But here, Krishna is basically changing the track. Not only that he's changing the track, but it seems that he's taking a whole U-turn, right? He's saying that fight for the sake of fighting without any consideration of happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, right? So here you see he starts speaking about detachment, detachment to the result, right? And it is basically equanimity in the duality. Whatever may happen, you keep on doing your prescribed duties, right? So that is important thing here, that we see basically from this verse itself, we are going to change the track. Here you will see what we discussed in the yoga ladder section. This is basically a gradual upliftment of the consciousness, of the motivation from Karm Kandu to Karm Yoga, Nishkam Karm Yoga, right? And then in the verse 0.39, someone will like to recite this Sanskrit verse?
I will try. If someone wants to recite, they can try, otherwise I will try.
I will try, Shanmukhji. Let me. You always do it very nicely, so please pardon me. एषा ते अभिहिता सांख्ये बुद्धियोगे त्विमां शृणु बुद्ध्या युक्तो यया पार्थ कर्मबन्ध प्रहास्यसि.
Very nice. Thank you, Arjun. Thank you.
Sorry, Shanmukhji.
I wanted others to try.
You're all good. So anyone will like to read the translation?
I can read it, yeah. Thus far, I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now, listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Partha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prashant. So here, Krishna is highlighting, this is basically a very important transitional words, to understand the whole flow of this chapter. Because this is for the first time, Krishna is using the word Sankhya. Although some of the contemporary commentators, they name this chapter as Sankhya Yoga, right? But Krishna is using the word Sankhya here for the first time, right? That I have spoken about Sankhya, Buddhir Yoge to Imam Shrinu. And now I'll speak about Buddhi Yoga. And Buddhya Yukto Yaya Partha. With help of this, you will be if you do your service with this knowledge and intelligence, Partha, what will happen? Karma bandhan prahasyasi. That prahasyasi. So you will overcome the karma bandhana, the entanglement, whatever, whether you do good service or bad service, please don't think that only bad things like, if you were stealing something, doing anything unethical, anything wrong, or, chastising or ridiculing or anything, then only will you incur, a reaction. Even if you do good things like charitable things, for that matter, doing charitable things also will incur reaction. You have to take birth in order to live for those, face the reaction of those good deeds also, which is why we will see in subsequent, verses, Krishna will say, go beyond all these good and bad deeds. Go beyond all these three modes of nature. Go in the Shuddha Sattva platform, right? Shuddha Sattva means do your duty, do your work for Krishna. Then you will not incur any reaction. So this Buddhi Yoga here is what? I already briefly touch base upon this, that Buddhi Yoga in 10.10, it is highlighted as purely devotional service. But in this section, if you see the flow of, these verses in the Gita, here Buddhi Yoga is used in reference of Nishkam Karma, right? Primarily, right? So, but ultimately we see these are rungs of yoga. So Buddhi Yoga ultimately means Bhakti Yoga. We will see as we progress through the Bhagavad Gita. And, I've already shared that with you. Buddhi Yoga primarily is and exclusively is used by Krishna in 10.10 and 18.57. And in those both verses, it directly means Bhakti Yoga. Okay. And now what is Sankhya?
Knowledge of, okay, go ahead.
No. Analytical knowledge or something, right?
Yeah.
Analytical knowledge of spirit and soul by
Right.
contemplating constantly between the spirit and soul.
Between the body and the soul, right?
The body and the soul.
Right.
Yeah.
And does anyone know the meaning of word Sankhya? Sankhya?
Numbers.
Numbers, right? It's like counting, right? And Sankhya is basically Shanmukh and Harshad rightly said, it's like kind of analysis, right? Through which we basically differentiate between the body and the soul, right? We are made up of, it will be elaborately described by Krishna in 7.4 in the 7th chapter. And then he says that these are my inferior energy, these 8 things, earth, water, fire, air, and then 3 are this mind, intelligence, and ego. 8 together, these are inferior. And in 7.5, he'll say that there is one superior energy, which is living entity, which is the soul, right? So we are, and then in 7.6, he will say that everything is consist of these 2 things. So, so this Sankhya is basically an analysis, and this helps us, right? It is a preliminary stage for spiritual advancement, right? And there is a whole, if you see, we have 6 different philosophies. They are touching the Vedas, all these 6 philosophies: Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, and Purvamimamsa, and Uttarmimamsa, which is Vedanta, right? And they are chief exponent of all these. Like Kapila, now there has been a theistic Kapila and an atheist Kapila. And the atheist Kapila also gave Sankhya, which was atheist, means that it has no relation with God, right? It does not involve God. It is a theistic philosophy. While there is a theistic philosophy of Sankhya put forward by Kapila Dev, if you see in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, right? And that is what our Acharya says, that is what Sankhya is primarily. And that Sankhya culminates in devotional service, right? So, and what does Buddhi means?
Intelligence.
Intelligence, right? Buddhi is simple, right? Intelligence. So intelligence, and also, wisdom, internalized wisdom, right? With the help of which we can see things in proper perspective, right? So that is important that, how, we understood Sankhya, right? That we are not this body. Okay, but what more? Krishna then subsequently talked about karma, that you should do your duty, you should do your prescribed duty. It is important. Adherence to scriptures is important, and all. But then Krishna is saying about buddhi, that how, with the intelligence which we have got, right? This buddhi yoga refers to intelligence which enables us to do yoga. And with the help of that yoga, it helps us to connect with the deeper realities of life, right? And later, as I told you, we will see in complete sense, it means bhakti yoga, right? But here it means basically that Karma Kanda was taking us to, what was the destination? Post-mortal destination was?
Nishkama Karma Yoga.
No, after death, destination was, with the help of Karma Kanda, was Swarg, right?
Yeah.
Right. But with the help of Buddhi Yoga, like, if you see Karma Yoga, it takes you further more to liberation, right? If for example, if Nishkam Karma Yogi are attached to, the impersonalist feature, you will at least get liberation. So it is taking us further more, right, with the help of Buddhi Yoga. So, and we see that Krishna is saying you should work with detachment, right? So, and Prabhupada in the purports basically highlights that Buddhi Yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of the work that we perform. What is that transcendental quality? The transcendental quality means the consciousness, the motivation. Everyone can do, things, the work, but it is important that what is our motivation? Motivation is to sense gratify, or motivation is that We are doing it for Krishna's sense gratification, for Krishna's love, for Krishna's pleasure. It is just because Krishna wants me to do. It's because my spiritual master wants me to do. So that is important, right? So this verse is very important, right? To understand the Buddhi Yoga concept and also Sankhya, right? Thereafter comes a very important verse, 2.40. Now, anyone will like to recite this? The Sanskrit, other than Shanmukh and Harshad? I request all of you to please try.
Yeah, I'll try.
Yeah, please.
नेहाभिक्रमनासोऽस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पम् अपि अस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात्.
Very good. Thank you very much. And who will read the English translation?
Can read that, Sumit.
Yes, please.
In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear.
Right. So here, basically, Krishna is glorifying the Buddhi Yoga process, basically sharing the characteristics of Buddhi Yoga process, right? Neha Brikama Nasho Asti, that in this endeavor, Abrikama means endeavor, Nasho means loss, Pratyavayo means diminution, Na Vidyate, that never happens, Na Vidyate, right? Swalpam apayasya, Swalpam means little also. If little endeavor is done in this path of Buddhi Yoga, in this path of spirituality, in this path of religiosity, what will happen? Trayate, Mehato Bhaya. Trayate means relief. Trayate. Mehato, a lot. Mehato, big. Bhayat means fear. So here, if we basically do something, it will save us from the most dangerous type of fear. If we put some effort in this bhakti yoga process, in this buddhi yoga process, in this spiritual science, nothing will be lost. And not only that, there will be no loss, but there will won't be any diminution also. Now, Shanmukhji, if we compare this verse with the verse in the 9th chapter, our favorite verse, 9.22, Ananyas. Right?
Yeah. Ananyas Chintayanto. Yogakshemam
Yeah.
Vahamyaham.
So if we compare, you would like to sing that, you sing nicely.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ye Janaha Paryupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham.
And what is the meaning of that verse?
So without any other deed, if you worship me with devotional love, I will take care of Yogakshema. Means I will give you what you want and I'll protect what you have.
Yes. Now, if you see the similarity in these two verses, here Krishna is saying that a little advancement, you will not lose anything, right? And nothing will diminish, right? And please try to understand one aspect, that in 9.22, what he is saying, that if you are lacking something, I will fulfill that. In this verse, Krishna till now in Bhagavad Gita has not introduced himself that you should do something for me or you should do devotion directly so far. But in 9.22, he's talking about that I will take care of everything. Ananyas chintu yantumam ye jana paryupasate tesham nitya abhiktanam yoga shemam aham vahami aham. I will take care. I will take care of. If there is any thing which is lacking, I will fulfill, and I will also protect whatever you have. So there is a similarity. Only difference is that is purely devotional. But here so far Krishna has not introduced himself directly. right? Now, trayate meheto bhayat, right? Protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Now, senior devotees, acharyas, they say that this fear factor, why, from where does this fear factor come? Fear factor come from sinful activities, right? So also this yoga process helps us to overcome all those sinful activities also, right? So that is also very important, right? So it is a win-win situation basically, right, for us. Okay. And there are many examples which now I want to also share. Prabhupada is highlighting this in this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam in the purport. So Shanmukji, you will like to recite this?
Yeah. This verse meaning is similar.
Yeah.
यत्वा स्वधर्मं चरणाम्बुजं हरे भजन्नमपक्वोऽथ पतितथो यदि यत्र क्व वा भद्रम् अभूद अमुष्य किम् को वार्ध आप्तो भजतां स्वधर्मतः.
Thank you very much. Someone will like to read the translation?
I can read Sumiji. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. Yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything.
Right. So again, as Shanmukji said, the meaning is very similar, which is why Prabhupada is bringing that this verse in the purport, right? That here in Bhagavatam also it is said that, you know, if we engage ourselves in devotional service, for example, now if we are chanting 16 rounds, if we are studying Bhagavad Gita, we are studying Bhagavatam, you know, we are doing some service, then, you know, we are taking this time, 4 or 5 hours, we are taking time from our other activities, right? We might have spent time talking to our relatives, or, you know, uh, going around with friends, or doing some business initiative, or whatever. Here it is said that if you have forsaken your material occupation to engage in devotional service of Lord, you know, sometimes what happens that we may, in our initial stages, we may fall down, you know, we may not continue our things. But here it is highlighted there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. Why? Krishna said, नेहाब्रिकमनाशो अस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पम अपयस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात. There won't be any diminution or loss. So anything materially, if you want to be successful, you have to complete that 100%, right? If you don't complete it 100%, you will have to start from zero again, right? For example, our Shanmukji is done his MTech from IIT Chennai, right? Now, Shanmukji leaves this body, for example, and he takes birth again. So he will file an application. I will start from PhD. Is that fact, Shanmukji? Next birth, you will start from PhD, or you will start from A for apple?
Any birth is from zero only.
A for apple. That MTech IIT will not be counted, unfortunately, right? But whatever all of us are doing spiritually here, everything will be counted in our next life. If we complete from A to P, then next life we'll start from Q. We don't have to do this A to P again, right? That is the advantage. in materially, when you take birth without any pockets. And when you leave this body, finally you are being cremated, there is no pocket. You come empty pocket, you leave empty pocket. But what you gain is if you do spiritual practice. Right. On the other end, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in, does not gain anything. While a non-devotee, neha brikamanasho asti pratvayo na vidyate swalpam apayasya dharmasya trayate mehetu bhayat. And we see in so many examples, I tell you, we have a devotee family. Uh, uh, they have their kids, Prahlad and Dhruva. Those kids, 2 years, when they were 2 years, they used to play mridanga very nicely. No one taught them. Dhruva can play harmonium, any music, anything. Right? And we see some people are born with some, spiritual, good qualities. They can, so that is there. That spiritual things will never go anywhere. You will start from that point onwards. And we see Bharat Maharaj, he was thinking of a stag and then he became an stag, but he remembered what happened in his past life. All his spiritual credits remained with him. We see example of also Katha of Chitraketu Maharaj, right? He was cursed by Shivji, right? But his spiritual things carried forward, even though he even when he was fighting with Indra, his verses are one of the most important verses in Bhagavatam. Before the 10th canto, if you see, his verses are the most important verses, right? And we also see story of Ajamil, right? Yeah, he was a Brahmana, but then because he saw, he contemplated on the sense object of or a prostitute. His entire life was spoiled, but at the end of the life, because he named his son as Narayan and he took name of Narayan. Not that Narayan, Supreme Personality of Godhead, but his son Narayan. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came, he said to Haridas Thakur, what will happen to these Malechas? How will I help them? And then Haridas Thakur, because Haridas Thakur was born in a Muslim family. And he used to, we are struggling in chanting 16 rounds a day, right? But Haridas Thakur, how many rounds did he chant? Born in a Muslim family, how many rounds? 192 rounds every day. Every day. And because Haridas Thakur was in Puri, in Jagannath, you cannot go if you are born in different religion. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to himself come and see him, give his darshan to Haridas Thakur, right? And then Haridas Thakur, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, how will I help these Malechas? So he said that they are saying haram, haram, and there is the word Ram there. Only by, even if you take the name of Krishna indirectly, you will be benefited. That is what. Ajamil took name of Narayan, calling his son's name, but he got the benefit of the word Narayan, which is why if you see in our Vedic culture, the names of our children were like Ram, Krishna, all this Narayan, right? Now this culture is going to a westernized culture where Tawny, Moni, Pinky, Dinky, Binky, all these things come, right? And if someone has a good name, then also parents will call Pinky, Dinky, Minky, not take the good name. That is the culture we are now living in, the westernized culture. So we should try to, that is very important thing, that we should try to name our children the name of Krishna. Very important, right? So that is the advantage. And it has been highlighted again, there will not be any loss in this spiritual endeavors and whatever we are doing spiritually. Okay, so we go on to the next verse. Someone will recite this very important verse. Anyone can recite.
I'll try, Sumit.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kuru nandana bahusakha anantascha buddhayo vyavasyanam.
Thank you very much, Dipeshji. Thank you. So here, someone will like to read the translation.
Okay. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kauravas. The intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched.
Right. I've put a photograph of some business analytics here. Why? Why business analytics? Does anyone know what is the meaning of Vyavsay?
Business.
Farming.
Vyavsay means any business, any type of business. It can be farming, it can be shop, it can be IT business or any, Vyavsay, any Vyavsay. Vyavsay Atmika Buddhir. Eke Kuru Nandana Bahusakha hi Anantascha Buddhayo Avyavsayanam. So what here it is, Krishna is describing the qualification for practicing Buddhi Yoga. The qualification is Vyavsayatmika Buddhi, one-pointed intelligence. Right? One-pointed intelligence means like a businessman. If you go anywhere in the world, like many of you might have traveled, like Padmaji has lived in US, all you IT professional might be traveling here and there in different countries. Our Ashish ji lived in UK, right? So Indians you will find everywhere in around the world. Whatever language it is, they will learn in order to do their business. If they don't know the language, they will somehow do the business, even if they don't know the language. Whatever the weather is, what kind of people are there, what kind of food is there, it hardly matters. If they want to do business, if they want to earn money, they will go anywhere. As long as they are able to earn money. Is it correct? The purpose is to earn money. Vyavsayatmika buddhir. As long as they are earning money, they will go anywhere, right? So what Krishna is saying, Arjun, you should have a one-pointed intelligence. What is that intelligence? The way these businessmen, their one aim is to earn money for their sense gratification. Your aim should be for spiritual enlightenment, right? Eke Kuru Nandana, one point. Bahushaka hi anantascha. Now, if you have, you are going here, there, this and that will not help. Avayavsayana, that is not going to, that type of buddhi is not going to help you, which is many branched, right? Now, I was hearing the lecture of Shriman Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji, and he gives a very good analogy, So he says that when desires crowd our mind, then dilemma cloud our intelligence. Someone will like to read this? Just the English one.
I would like to.
Yes, Anvi, please.
When desired crowd our mind, then dilemma cloud our intelligence.
And who will explain this? My English is not so good, Anvi. You will explain?
I don't know how to explain.
When desires crowd our mind, if we have so many desires, I want to do this, I want to do that, this, that, then dilemma clouds our intelligence. Then we get confused what to do, what not to do. Our intelligence is clouded with confusion. This example, now this person, they want to travel somewhere, and this person wants to take the entire house in the luggage. Can they take? Is it possible? No. If they want to travel, they have to take only, they are allowed limited baggage. Even if you are traveling in your own car, you cannot take the entire house, right? You have to prioritize what you have to take. It does not mean that, if you cannot take everything, that you will not go. That is foolishness, right? What you should do, you should see what is important, what is to be done, right? Even we take another example of education, right? Their children in 10th class, 11th class, when they have to select a subject, and if they say, I want to become an engineer, I want to become a doctor, I want to become a chartered accountant, I want to go in army and to become a pilot also, is that possible? What will happen then? It is all confusion. We cannot take any decision, we cannot do anything, we will fail. If we need to be focused, we need to prioritize things, we need to streamline things, right? So if we have so many desires, but the time is limited 24 hours, then how we will live the life? Again, that is very important, right? When we are practicing Krishna consciousness, we need to be one pointed. We need to persevere. The way, for example, what is this? Something is coming up.
Olympic.
Olympic rings.
Olympic, huh? Where are they going to be held this time?
Tokyo.
Tokyo.
My friend Satoru keeps crying. I have a friend in Japan, Tokyo. Sumit, I don't know. I'm so fearful. These people are doing Olympics and Corona is going to spread. That is why he was saying now no audience will be there. But even then, people are afraid, right? So now, if someone wants to go and participate in Olympics, what he has to do?
Prepare, train.
Prepare, right? Now he cannot eat and drink and pass the time casually. He had to be fixed, one pointed, that I have to do everything to get there, right? And not only just get there, I have to win a medal for the country, for myself. So they have to persevere, they have to work hard, they have to be fixed in what they want to do. We have Sayatmika Buddhi, right? For everything, if you want to participate, like even if you are in playing this cricket, you have to know what you have to do, right? You are a bowler or a batsman, even bowler like a fast or spin, and it is spin also, like so many types of spin and this and that, right? You need to be fixed in what you want to do. We don't have to be fanatical, but we need to be fanatically focused, right? We cannot be fanatical in a sense that it's only me who is correct and everyone is wrong. No, we cannot be fanatical, but we have to be fanatically focused. We have to be one pointed in what we need to do, otherwise we will be nowhere. So when it comes to devotional life, same thing apply. If you want to put your leg in two boats, then what will happen? Only fish are going to enjoy us, right? A serious devotee of Krishna is defined by sense of purpose and urgency. Instructions of a spiritual master should be our life and soul. That is very important. In the life of all of us, we need to have a fixed, one-pointed purpose, and there should be urgency. We cannot be casual about it, right? We have Sayatmika Buddhi Eke Ha Kuru Nandana Bahushaka Hi Anantascha Buddhayo Avyavasayana. So that is very important, right? And we also shared like what is Vyavsay, right? These are our talented business people. Focus is just to make financial progress. And what should be our focus? Just Yashanmukh ji?
Spiritual progress towards
Spiritual
Krishna.
progress. Whatever we are doing, we should have one pointed thing, spiritual progress. Okay, I'll take 10 minutes extra, and we'll cover till 46, if you don't mind. Okay. So someone will like to recite this verse.
I will try, Sumiji. Yami ma pushpitam vacham pravadantya vipaschitam Vedavarata partha nanyadastiti vadinaha. It's 42, 43. Kamatmana swargapara janma karma palapradam kriye vishesha bahulam bhogaishwarya katim prati.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you very much, Ramayaji. Thank you. So now someone will lead the translation.
I can read it.
Please.
Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this.
Right. So what is this? The unintelligent followers of Vedas. Right. And here, if you see, it is not Shanmukhji, it is not 3, or here it is generally they are saying they are attracted to the Pushpitam Vacham, right? Pushpitam Vacham, of what Vedas are saying, right? And people they are highlighting as was ava vipashitaha, men with poor fund of knowledge. Vipashita are, they can discriminate, but these people, they are attracted by flowery words of Vedas. They say because Vedvata Rata, Vedvata Rata, that because it is written in Vedas, we will follow this, right? So, and they will say, no, because it is written in Vedas, that is ultimate thing. They know it is not right, but then also, what is their purpose? Kamatmanaha. Kamatmana means desire. Kamatmana, what is the Kamatmana there? Swargapara. Janma karma phal prasadam. What for? High birth, enjoyment. That is their aim. That is what they are going to get at Swarga. That is their Kam. The whole life is devoted towards sense enjoyment. Kriya Vishesh Bhulam Bhog Aishwarya Gatim Prati. The enjoyment. They just want to enjoy, like cats and dogs. That is their purpose, right? But they don't understand the conclusions of Vedas, which are in the Vedanta, right? And again, if you see in this section from 38 to 46, it is Krishna is contrasting between Karma Kanda and Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga. Like these verses of highlighting the Karma Kanda thing. Karma Kanda is something like, if you see the x-axis and a y-axis, it's towards the negative side. And in the yoga ladder, Krishna wants to uplift us to go towards, up towards positive side, right? And 0 axis at a neutral platform is maybe a Gyan Yoga thing, right? And then gradually uplift towards Ashtanga and Bhakti Yoga, right? So the main thing in the Vedas is what? Vedanta, the Upanishads, right? And the cream and the essence of all Vedas is what we are studying is Bhagavad Gita, right? And the natural commentary of Vedanta Sutra is Srimad Bhagavatam. It is mentioned that it is the ripened fruit of the desire tree of Vedas, Srimad Bhagavatam. And Bhagavad Gita is basically essence, Gita Amrita, right? Of that is what we have to highlight. We don't have to get attracted towards the flowery language of Vedas. And we have to be, see, directly Krishna is saying here that we cannot be attracted by these things. And then in subsequent verse, it is said, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme does not take place. I have specifically put a picture of our friend. What is his name?
Dhritarashtra.
Dhritarashtra. This verse very well applies to him, right? He was too attached to sense enjoyment, material opulence. And what price did he pay? He lost all his 100 sons. Everything. He lost everything. And he could not understand. Even everyone tried to counsel him, but he would not understand because he was so much attached to material opulence and enjoyment. That becomes difficult part, right? So we have to be careful. Okay. And then in the subsequent verse, it is rise above Vedic Karma Kanda. So who will like to read this?
I will try, Swamiji.
Thank you, Lavanyaji, please.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nidvando Nitya Sattvasto Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Very nice. Someone can read the translation also. Okay, I will. Santosh Prabhu, you will.
Yeah, the Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes, be free from all duties and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self.
Right. Trigunya Vishaya Veda. So Vedas primarily deal with what? Everything in modes of nature. There are three modes, three guna. Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. Right? Mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. We will study in detail in 14th chapter. But this will come. I think so. I'm sorry. I touched upon this in our introductory 9 sessions. Right? So these three guna, primarily the Vedas, they talk about, everything in these three guna. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three things. And Krishna also spoke about, these things, right? In verses 31 to 37, right? And now he's saying that what I spoke and what Vedas say, you should not get affected by them. You should go beyond. Nistre guna bhavarjuna, nirdvando nitya sattvisto. Nitya sattvisto. You should be situated in what? Shuddha sattva, nitya sattva, transcendental goodness. Not in these mode of goodness, but situate yourself in transcendental goodness. What is that transcendental goodness? Anything which is done in service of Krishna is in the platform of Shuddha Sattva, Nitya Sattva, right? And go beyond Niryoga Shema, that related to bodily pains and gains. Go beyond that. And be Atmavan. This word is very important. Atmavan. There are people who are Dhanvan. There are people who are Balwan. And here Krishna is saying, become Atmavan. What does that mean? You possess more and more Atma. Huh? It means, Atmavan means live on the platform of being an Atma. Don't live on the bodily platform. Realize that you are Atma and live on that platform, right? Live, on the platform of self-realization that we are soul, and our service is Nitya Krishna Das, right? So that is what Krishna is highlighting in this, that rise above the Vedic Karma Kanda principles. And then in a last verse of this section, 2.46, Krishna gives a very good example. All purpose served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of Vedas can be served by one who knows the purpose behind them. Now, what is this? All the purpose served by well can at once be served by a reservoir of water, right? This, I got this good picture. So, like in our Vedic times, there used to be well. A well can be, one well can be for washing clothes. Other well would be for, uh, bathing. Third maybe for drinking water, right? Fourth maybe for some ablution purposes, right? So different well for different purposes. But if there is a river flowing, right, then that river can serve all the purpose for all these things, right? So the analogy is said that similarly, the purposes of Vedas can be served by one who knows the purpose behind them. And Shanmukh-ji, what is the purpose of the Vedas? 15.15, right? Shanmukh-ji?
15.15.
है ना? So that verse is very nice. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivisto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarve aham eva vedyo vedant krit vedavid eva chaham. Right? I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedant, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So, if someone knows the purpose of the Vedas, what is the purpose of the Vedas? To know Krishna. I am to be known from the Vedas. So, Krishna is clearly highlighting that thing in Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, 15th number verse, right? So someone who knows the purpose of Vedas, he knows everything. He will not be attracted by the flowery words of the Vedas. He will be one pointed. We have Sayatmika Buddhi, right? So that is very important for all of us. We should also gradually advance ourselves towards that goal, that aim. Okay. So that brings us towards the end of this section. Hare Krishna, I want to open if someone has any question or comment or suggestion, anything.
Sumit, I have a question.
Yeah.
192 rounds of chanting. Did we have to sit separately from all works and do, or can we do it while we are working?
So Haridas Thakur used to chant 22 hours a day, exclusively. So you can understand how many hours he used to sleep and do all other activities.
Okay.
And Srila Prabhupada, Haridas Thakur was 500 years ago. Srila Prabhupada, he was here with us till 1977, right? With his body. And what he used to do, he used to sleep from 10 p.m. till 12 midnight. And from 12 to 4 a.m. he used to write his books. 4 a.m. he will do Mangala Arti, he will go forward, he will chant his rounds, he will give Bhagavatam class. Thereafter, he will manage the society and do all these sevas. 2 hours he would also sleep. So Radha Rani, now Padma ji, the question is very, very deep. Your question is not superficial, because we have to chant our prescribed rounds at the stage we are in. And what Srila Prabhupada has said, Padma ji, Prabhupada said, if you chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regulative principles, and read my books regularly, I promise that I will come and take you back to Golok Vrindavan. So what does that mean? That means is if we follow 4 regulative principles, no meat eating, right? Including no tea, no coffee, no, like meat eating means no egg, nothing. No intoxication, which includes no alcohol, no tea, no coffee. Tea, coffee is also caffeine, no that thing. Then no illicit relationship and no gambling. these are Bhagavatam principles, that these are principles of religious life. So we have to follow them strictly. And one thing positive is we have to chant 16 rounds. It takes 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And at least half an hour if we read books, Prabhupada books, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chetan Charitamrita, or many other books, scriptures, Prabhupada has guaranteed that he will come and take us. If we do these things, we will always be in Krishna consciousness. You will see how life will be transformed. And that is what we are seeing. There have been so many Bhagavad Gitas, English translation all over the world. But only when this Prabhupada Bhagavad Gita as it is means, there was, as it is presented as Krishna wanted to present, when it changed life of people. And you saw, how these foreigners, they are wearing dhoti kurta, matajis, they are wearing sarees, putting tilak. If you ask, some ladies, they don't like to put tilak, they are shying. And our boys, they don't want to keep the shikha, they're shying. So we should, that strength will come when we follow these regulative principles, when we follow this life. We will advance. Vyavsayatmika buddhi, that will come with us. And you will see, Padmaji, I'm sharing from in this group. One boy, he tells me that, Sumit, since the time I have started chanting, and even in night, it keeps coming in my head. I'm dreaming, and I tell you, you will have control over your dreams also. I can tell you. So it is in a way that Haridas Thakur used to chant 22 hours. But even if we chant 2.5 hours, read books, follow principles, we will be in Krishna consciousness 24 hours a day. That will happen.
Thank you so much.
Any other question? Okay.